What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. I'm here to talk to you about a couple or three things, mainly the Giannis trade talks and the Giannis trade request, and then maybe we get into the Chris Paul situation later. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I made a video about this last night, but unfortunately it aged poorly because Giannis got hurt yesterday. What I did in that video was I talked about a bunch of Giannis trade packages and such like that. We can do that again today, but mainly I want to get into the weeds about, is Giannis even leaving? I don't know. And then, like I said, we could talk about Chris Paul. We're going to jump right into the Giannis thing. We're going to talk about how they finally got a win without Giannis. And I know technically he played 5 minutes yesterday, whatever. They finally got a win without him. But the downside is that he got hurt again. Another calf strain, non-contact. Looked a lot worse than it was because, to be honest, for me, I thought it could have been an Achilles situation. Like, he goes down non-contact and looks behind him. I was like, oh no, here we go. But he avoided any Achilles injury according to the results, the test results, and he also didn't really badly hurt his calf. It's only a calf strain, which I believe he's had a calf strain problem for a couple of years now. Giannis, of course, one of the 5 best players in the world, but if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks roster, they're going to be playing without Giannis again for another good portion of time, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever. They're going to be without Giannis again. And I don't think they're going to survive it. I mean, they look pitiful without him for the last week before he came back. They drop a game to the Wizards. They win yesterday. It was a huge win against Detroit. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple of things in that game that were really odd. Like, Jericho Sims was really good. And you don't always get those type of minutes out of Jericho. But what I will say is if Giannis doesn't request a trade here, I don't think he has a path to winning in Milwaukee at this point. I don't think there's a path for him to be winning there. They have a good guard group with Kevin Porter and Ryan Rollins now, with AJ Green as an off-guard type of thing. But overall, I mean, I just don't think they have it. They don't have another all-star on the roster. Miles Turner's not an all-star. And it's clear they struggled without him. I mean, they're very reliant on Giannis, which, of course, most teams are when they have a player that's top 5 in the league. You know what I mean? Of course, it's like the Lakers are good without Luka, though. Or the Celtics have been good without Jason Tatum. You know what I mean? Any elite team plays well, even when their star is down. Milwaukee is the exception because they're a really decent team, but without Giannis, they don't look anything close to the same. Bobby Portis said it yesterday during his interview. They look terrible, and there's been a lot more downs than ups in the last few weeks. So with Milwaukee struggling, Brian Windhorst is reporting that Giannis already requested a trade. But Doc Rivers and people inside the Bucks organization are adamant in saying he did not do that. Brian Windhorst doubled down today and said that Giannis requested a trade specifically to the Knicks. And again, Doc Rivers is on the podium saying, got no idea what you're talking about, man. Doc Rivers said, quote, Giannis has never asked to be traded, ever. I can't make that more clear. We're trying to win games. Listen, we've lost, and the reason this is out is because we're not playing well. We're not playing well. We had a tough loss the other night, and so now this is the subject matter. It's no more true than it was this summer. And again, if you do remember this summer, more reports came out about Giannis requesting a trade, and it was basically shot down by John Horst and Doc Rivers both kind of together. And then Giannis came out and kind of shot them down too, and that led us to this point where their roster is very middling, I'll say, and very reliant on Giannis, which again, I said it before, but most teams with a superstar caliber player are relying on that superstar. But this one more so than others because they really just aren't good without Giannis. This is a bad team without Giannis. He's covering a world of stink in Milwaukee right now, and personally, I think they should look to trade him. I know it's not popular with the Bucks fans, and I get it. Really, really heart-wrenching to rip out a guy that's homegrown, developed. He was drafted there, and he became, probably their best player in franchise history. He is their best player in franchise history. But he's at the point in his career where he's 31 years old. He's dealt with injuries the last few seasons. And on top of that, you have not put a roster around him that I would consider championship quality or basically even able to be carried by Giannis. You put Giannis out there for the full season, for the full playoff schedule, and I still don't have confidence this team's championship level. Doc Rivers also added there's been no conversations. Giannis loves Milwaukee, and he loves the Bucks. Again, it's the same thing from this summer, and it's a point that I made last night in the video that's gone now, but I made this point last night that, who do you believe, the media or the coaching staff in the front office? The front office of the Bucks is adamant that they don't want to trade Giannis. They want to keep trying to rebuild around him and build around him and build around him. But ultimately, it's failed. The last few attempts have failed. When they went from the Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton tandem with Giannis to the Damian Lillard, that's about it. That failed. Blew up in their faces, right? And now you transfer into this era of Miles Turner and Ryan Rollins. It just continually feels like a downslope. Like we've been trending downward since the 2021 title. And like I said, Giannis is 31. He's not going to be in his prime forever. And on top of that, you see the injuries starting to pile up. Maybe it really is time. But again, who do you trust here between the media, who's saying he asked for a trade already, he might be out soon, and Doc Rivers, who's saying not true, I don't think Giannis wants to trade at all. But in case they do decide to trade Giannis, I want to go over some trade packages that I really like for Giannis. The main one that stuck out, people always say the Knicks. They cite the Knicks. Windhorst even just said that Giannis wants to play for the Knicks. Brian Windhorst just reported that. I don't like that trade package at all. I can go on Fanspo, I can try it right now, but I already worked around it. Realistically, if you want Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Knicks, you're going to have to give up probably Karl-Anthony Towns. And a one-for-one swap with picks going to Milwaukee, I don't like it. I don't. What does Milwaukee get from Karl-Anthony Towns? And aging, he's not really that old, but like a guy who's continually getting older, not getting better anymore, and has proven he can't be a center on a championship team, and has proven he doesn't really have it in the playoffs all that much. Like, he's had a couple of good playoff games, but ultimately not as productive. I'm on Fanspo right now trying to work out the numbers. If you put Giannis on the Bucks, Giannis is currently making $54 million. If you want to make that up without giving up Karl-Anthony Towns, you're talking about Mikal Bridges, and you're still 29. Oof, geez. You need to make up like 40 still. And then you're talking OG. And you'd have to give up a young guy like a Pacome Dadier. But I don't think they're giving up both wings, Mikal and OG, for Giannis, just so that way they can run triple big lineups. I think it would definitely have to be Karl-Anthony Towns 1-for-1. And then if you go over to the pick section, the Knicks don't have that many picks. Remember, they give up 5 for Mikal Bridges. So they have a Wizards 1-8 protected. Will not convey to them. The Wizards will get a 1-8 pick. So I believe they'd have to give up their own first-round pick unprotected this year. They'd give up this first-round pick, which it goes to Brooklyn, quote-unquote, but it is the most protected pick I've ever seen. Like, on Fanspo, it's a damn novel to read that pick out loud to you. And then they have 2030 and 2032 picks. Maybe they give up both of those. Because, again, here's just a reminder to the Knicks fans out there that are like, 4 first-round picks is too much. They paid 5 for Mikal Bridges. So 4 for Giannis is not unfair at all. The Knicks would still have to clear money. No way, dude. The Knicks would still probably have to give up somebody else. That trade doesn't even work. So I guess they'd have to give up Yabusele. Would that work? Team's hard capped at the second apron. It's really a difficult trade. I don't know what it would come down to. I don't know what the trade package would even be for the Knicks, to be honest. Cat, Yabusele. Let's get rid of Yabusele. Let's put Josh Hart in. And I know he's a fan favorite or whatever, but what happens if I ballpark Josh Hart? Would the Bucks be able to do it? The Knicks are still hard capped at the second apron. I'm still trying to piece together this Giannis Knicks trade. Let me see if anybody else has a good trade package that I didn't think of yet. Hold on. So it would have to work out. The one that ESPN proposed is Giannis and Jericho Sims. Jericho goes right back to the Knicks. Giannis and Jericho Sims for Karl-Anthony Towns, Pacome Dadier, Tyler Kolek, and 4 first-round picks. Again, I still don't like that trade package for Milwaukee at all. I don't. I understand you're never going to win a Giannis trade. Milwaukee, you're never going to win a Giannis trade. So if you don't like any of these trade packages, get used to it, buddy. That's how it works when you're trading a top 5 player in the world. You don't get that same value back, right? But the one that I'm seeing that I really just don't like is that one. Because, yeah, it's 4 first-round picks. One's going to turn into 2 second-round picks. Awesome, because they're giving up the Wizards top 8 protected. If that one doesn't convey, it turns into second-round picks. So essentially, you're giving up 3 first-round picks that are either from the Trailblazers or the Bucks, 2 first-round picks that are pick swaps, and then 1 unprotected Knicks pick and 2 second-round picks. So you're really getting 3 firsts and 2 seconds, Tyler Kolek, Pacome Dadier, and Karl-Anthony Towns for Giannis. I don't like that trade package. And again, I said you're never going to win a trade from Milwaukee fans, but also, like, I factor in, this is an awful trade. They don't even get a young player. They get Karl-Anthony Towns, who's, 30 now? He's 30 on the dollar. So you get a 30-year-old and Pacome Dadier, Tyler Kolek, and some picks. You don't even get a young player. I don't like that trade package, so I like other ones the best. I like the Miami trade package a little bit more. I saw one for Atlanta, but I feel like Atlanta's done with trades. The trade package to Atlanta would say Giannis and Cole Anthony to the Hawks for Trae Young, Zach Ricochet, and 1, 2, 3, 4 picks. And some of them are turned into seconds or whatever. I like that trade package a little better because you get Zach Ricochet, and you can convince yourself. I mean, Trae Young's an all-star caliber guy. You can convince yourself about Zach Ricochet as a young, budding, like, really good talent. So, yeah, that trade makes sense. I like that trade better than the Knicks one. I'm just saying. I like that trade a lot better than the Knicks one. You get a Zach Ricochet who has shown some real solid flashes, and Trae Young who's been an all-NBA guy. This one's Houston, which is Giannis and Thanasis for Şengün, Fred VanVleet, and a first. I don't like that at all. That doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't like that one. I'm just reading an ESPN article. This one says Giannis to the Spurs for Castle, Black Falcon, Kelly Olynyk, Jordan McLaughlin, and 4 picks. I don't mind this one either. At least they get a young player in Stephon Castle that they can talk their fans into really loving, and the Spurs have a crowded guard room, so I guess it makes more sense. Now, I know they're the 2 seed, but I did build one for the Toronto Raptors last night. It would be Giannis for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley and picks, like picks galore. They have a bunch of their own picks. They don't really trade that often. So we'll give them like a 20-31. We'll do 3. We'll do 4 picks. So it'd be RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and 4 picks for Giannis. And I understand some Raptors fans might not like that, but I know you guys have been addicted to big ball for years up there in the Great North. This trade would work. This trade goes through. Giannis for Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and 4 first-round picks. The Raptors get a lot better, and on top of that, like, they have other backup guards in Shed and Walter who have started games for them, and they still have, I mean, they needed another center. I understand Giannis isn't a center, but he can kind of play a backup role. The spacing on that team might be atrocious, but I still think it'd be an interesting trade package. And the other one I saw was Miami. I can work through that real quick. And Miami's the 3 seed, so I don't even know if they'd rock the boat per se. But Giannis to Miami, it would be for Tyler Hero and Wiggs and picks. 1 first, 2 first, and we'll do a 3rd first. It might be more than 3, but this trade also goes through. Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, and 3 first-round picks for Giannis. It's another trade I like a lot more than a Cat trade, for sure, to the Knicks. Miami would need to grab another player. They can sign a guy on a minimum. The stipend rule, it would have to be different picks, whatever. Either way, I think a trade to the Raptors or the Heat or even Atlanta make a lot more sense than a Knicks trade in terms of value for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I am saying it could happen, and it'd be very interesting if Giannis were to get moved. But again, that front office and Doc Rivers himself seem very adamant that it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, hey, maybe we should back off, but until then, it's fun to speculate because of the fact Giannis has been there so long, A, and also B, the fact that they are just not very good at the moment. Yahoo Sports is saying that Giannis will be out for 2 to 4 weeks anyways. So with 2 to 4 weeks, let's say 3, just fit right down the minimum. The Bucks are going to be terrible for about 3 weeks straight. That could really do a number on their playoff chances. Considering they haven't won very many games without him. They won one last night without Giannis, but he played, so technically not. But he didn't play enough for me to really, you know what I mean. But if the Bucks are terrible for 3 weeks straight and they don't have Giannis, I can see a path for them to not want to deal with that anymore. Again, the roster's continually gotten worse every year around Giannis. He's aging and he's getting more and more injured. Per year, he's missing more games. And so I understand this is it'd be, again, tough for a Bucks fan to handle because he is the greatest player in their franchise's history. But at the same time, it might be time to just let go because his roster is not getting any better. You don't have very many picks left. You should recoup what you have. Just kind of get what you can and kind of press the reset button. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. John Horst seems very stuck in his ways about trying to build this roster for Giannis. Understandably so. You have a top 5 player in the world. Why not keep shooting for the stars? But ultimately, it hasn't worked out well this season, and so I understand if they really do choose to move on. Speaking of moving on, we can move on to the Clippers and Chris Paul situation. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. The Clippers organization has not rehabbed their image very much from 10 years ago, in my opinion. Their brand and their image as an organization has not gotten better, has not gotten very much better since back in the day, when things were bad. The Clippers continually make the same mistakes where they invest in these injury-prone guys and it doesn't work out. The first one that comes to mind, well, ultimately, is like Elton Brand. He was always injured. But like they move on and they get Kawhi. If you told me 6 years ago when Kawhi signed there, 2019, he signed there 2020, but if you told me many years ago when he signed to the Clippers that they'd be in a worse spot after Kawhi than before Kawhi, I wouldn't have believed you. But ultimately, they're in a much worse spot. And it leads to them making some shitty decisions, like releasing their best player in franchise history on his farewell tour. They released Chris Paul in the middle of his farewell tour because him and Tyronn Lue had a bit of a disagreement, had some disagreements. They hadn't talked for 3 weeks, they said. And when Chris Paul asked for a one-on-one meeting with Tyronn Lue, T. Lue declined. And that led to a rift in the locker room. Some players didn't like Chris Paul's leadership style. And again, I really don't understand that. This is a guy who's won no matter where he's been. Of course, he has won a championship, but this has been a guy who's been on multiple teams that have been really, really great teams, championship-level teams that just didn't win. So to sit here and say, like, I don't know, somebody in the locker room really didn't like how he was leading them, I don't like to hear that because the Clippers didn't win anything last year. They hung the banner for going 7 with the Nuggets. That was all they could hang their hat on, was we went 7 with a team that also went 7 with the champs. If that's how you're rationalizing it, that's not a great look. Chris Paul is probably the best player in Clippers franchise history. Point blank period. Like end of sentence. He's just the best player in their franchise's history. And you release him on his farewell tour. Tyronn Lue said it pointed blame right back at Lawrence Frank. So you have these reports coming out saying that T. Lue declined a one-on-one meeting with Chris Paul. And on top of that, they hadn't talked in 3 weeks. And they didn't like his leadership style in the locker room. But then you listen to what Ty Lue says. And T. Lue says, like, hey, it's ultimately up to the front office and management, but I didn't like that they released him. I think he said, I didn't like that they released him. Not verbatim, but somewhere in the ballpark there of like he didn't like it. And so now I'm like, who's telling the truth? Who's telling the truth here? It's another case of who's lying, the media or the coaching staff. We don't know. What we do know is that this Clippers season has been an absolute train wreck, and it's not Chris Paul's fault. It's not. It's Lawrence Frank's fault. You let Norman Powell walk, or you traded Norman Powell for effectively nothing, essentially. You got Bradley Beal in, who's now done for the season, and you got John Collins, who's been god-awful as a Clipper. Thank God he's turned it around a little bit, because he was awful for a majority of the season to start. But, like, there's nothing here, talent-wise, that can save them. I don't think there's a single guy that can come into this Clippers locker room right now that's available and save them. It's just insane to me that you would let go of a guy on his last season, his farewell tour, and tell him to go home. And a few days ago, the Clippers social media team posted a video that was like, thank you, Chris Paul, for choosing us as your final destination on your farewell tour. We love you, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, hey, how much do you really love the guy if you release him? Of course, social media is different from the organization, but you get what I mean. Just a really bad look. And we haven't even begun to talk about the aspiration and the Kawhi thing, planting trees and all that nonsense. Like, this organization has not rehabbed their image very well. Steve Ballmer has not redone their organization to make them look a lot better. Like, right now, their reputation, their first of all, their basketball, like, their actual team is in the mud, and the reputation's even worse because of the fact that, again, you released your best player ever on his farewell tour, and on top of that, like, the Kawhi deal, it's just dumb. This franchise, top to bottom, needs to be aired out. That's why I'm kind of mad that they just got rid of Chris Paul. In my opinion, it should have been both him and T. Lue. I like Ty Lue. He's been consistently ranked as one of the 10, maybe even 5 best coaches in the league. Not even joking. You go look at the coaches' survey every single year. Ty Lue is at the top in terms of like in-game adjustments. They asked all the GMs and coaches who's the best at in-game adjustments in the league, and it's Ty Lue like every single year. Ty Lue is a good coach, but also Chris Paul has been a good leader for all of his career. I genuinely don't understand what the rift could have been from. Chris Paul wanted them to win or something? I don't know. With trade season approaching, we can also ballpark some trades because the Clippers seem to be going downhill. They did get a win yesterday against Atlanta, I believe. But ultimately, I think that this team is going to blow itself up unless they decide to double down. If they double down, then they go get DeMar DeRozan, who they've been looking at. That's not a great look. But if they were to make a trade, I would see James Harden and I would see Ivica Zubac available. And personally, James Harden to Minnesota feels like it makes the most sense personally to me. It just does. They need a guard. Minnesota desperately needs guard play besides Anthony Edwards, but he's more of a wing now. But they desperately need a guy who can pass. James Harden can pass. And they need a guy who can get them open looks in the fourth quarter and not be relying on Anthony Edwards chucking and heaving down the stretch. So if James Harden walks in that door, it definitely makes it a lot more interesting for the Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoffs. And as for if it's a Zubats type, there's a bunch of teams that should be interested in Zubats. I don't think the Lakers would be, but I think they need another center. I think the Celtics should be. I know Nemish Queta has done really well this season, but if you can add another big and he's not that expensive, why not? Maybe Toronto goes after him. You know, that foreign big man tandem with Yak. That'd be kind of fun. I just think the Clippers are on a path to rebuild, no matter what way you look at it. And I don't understand this. I don't understand the move to get rid of Chris Paul. I don't understand the move to openly pick Doc Rivers over him, essentially. I don't like any of the optics around the Clippers organization over the last 3 years, I'll say. Over the last 2 for sure. They've continually just gotten worse every year under Lawrence Frank. It's a bad look, and personally, I think after this season, they should air the whole thing out. Anyone going to pick up Chris Paul down the stretch this season and let him run nothing? I mean, the Thunder should be petty and just pick him up. Let's be honest. His most impressive carry job was with that Thunder team. He didn't carry. Shea was good, Schroeder was good, but let's be honest. The most impressive thing of Chris Paul's career is either the Suns, turning the Suns around into a 1-seed finals candidate, and also that team with OKC where he rehabbed his whole image because after Houston, people thought he was washed. He goes to OKC and he turns them into a playoff team, a solid playoff team. Why not? OKC, bring in Chris Paul, let him try and get a ring. It'd be petty and it'd be really fun. You know what else would be really fun? You subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to catch the game. See you guys in the next one.